Well, Ann Mahoney, I don't know whether to call you Ann or to call you Professor Mahoney, but whether it's Ann or Professor Mahoney, or people know you from Olivia from The Walking Dead, or Clara from what, same kind of different as me, or even I remembered you as Mabel in the original episode of Heart of Dixie. I know everyone is going to be excited to see you this weekend at BSI Comics in Metairie.
I'm so excited to see them. I never get to do things locally. So this is actually probably one of the first signing events I've done locally. So
And talk to me, because obviously you travel to, I'm sure, Comic Cons from all over the United States throughout the year. What's taking you so long, being a hometown girl, to get back and meet the folks back home?
I think sometimes locally they just don't want to ask. I think sometimes they're afraid to ask. And I'm like, just ask me. I'll do things, I love to go out and meet local people. Half the time it happens to me in the parking lot anyway.
I'm sure you can't go anywhere. Listen, and the fact is that the show has been, I think, 11 seasons. It ended what, 2 years ago, and your character, believe it or not, and I was looking this up. It's been almost a decade. Now I'm rounding up there. It's been, I think, about 8 years since Olivia was unceremoniously killed off. And was that season 7, I believe?
Yep.
Talk to me about what the continued love affair between the fans of The Walking Dead and the character of Olivia.
Well, I mean, what I feel like is I'm every woman, right? Like not in the like Whitney Houston sense, but like the idea of the everyman, the person that people recognize, they see themselves in Olivia. I'm not an amazing fighter. I'm not, I don't have that aspect to my character, but I'm the person everybody knows. Before I was ever an actor, people would always say like, "Do I know you from somewhere?" And so I think I have that thing about me where people identify with me, right? I look like your average next door neighbor or like one of your best friends or so I think that's what it is. And I played that. I loved playing her because she was so different from the people who were really, really brave. But she was brave in her own way, right? She did what she could. So I think that's
So,
probably part of it.
did you know going into that day that when you got the script that that was the finale for your character?
I did know, what was great about Scott Gimple was the showrunner when I was on the show, and he would always call people. So you were not surprised by dying. Funny thing is, he called me earlier in the season about a joke that Negan makes about, like, nice job putting the fat girl in charge of the pantry. And he called me to apologize. He was like, I just want you to know Negan's a jerk. So he says jerk things, but like, I just wanted you to know, like, about that. So when he called me earlier in the season, I was like, I'm dead. This is it. I'm dead. But then the real call came halfway through the season before I got the script, before anyone got the script. He called me and said, as soon as I saw his name on my phone, I was like, I'm dead. It's like I knew I was dead. So yeah, I knew it was coming.
What's it like to look back on that time period in your life and to be a part of something really so monumental and so global?
Well, I think that we always hear the tail end of stories. We hear the Cinderella story, and it's everything feels overnight, and it's never. There are those, but they're one in billions, right? The people who end up helping me get the audition and being part of me being cast in The Walking Dead, I started auditioning for them in 2004. And 2014 is when I got this Walking Dead audition, and it wasn't just me; other people got that audition too. But these folks, it's a Finn Cannon and Associates out of North Carolina, who are I love them. They were like, "This is an Ann Mahoney role, right?" But it was a 10-year relationship at that point, and I think that's something that people forget is that, like, I just had a film that I've written optioned by F3 Films out of Prairieville, and they people think of that as an overnight success too, but that story is like 15 years in the making too. So I think that when I look back, I feel fortunate, that I got to be a part of the evolution of something and that I stuck with it, that I had the courage to stick with it because it's really a tough business, and it's still tough. It's tough again for me right now, if I'm being 100% honest, right? Yeah.
Were you aware at the time? Had you any clue whatsoever that that character in this show would live on for years and probably decades to come. I'm still watching it on reruns now on Netflix.
I had no idea. I remember being there my first couple of episodes in Alexandria, and they had the set there, and there were all these people that were across the train tracks watching to try to see what was going on inside of the area that was Alexandria. Those were real homes. They bought that plot of land and they were building those homes, and they actually sold that neighborhood once that part of the story was over. And I remember walking with um, Josh McDermott and him going, look, we had this gap we had to walk past where all the people could see us. And he said, we need to walk fast. He's like, I can't be seen with you because I don't want everybody making assumptions about what the story is going to be. And I was like, and I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't know it was on the level that it was. And the second year that I drove into set, people would call my name as I drove onto set. There would be people waiting there. I was like, how do they know who I am? I had no idea. I had no idea what a phenomenon it was.
Well, and had Olivia not met her untimely demise, what would she have done? Where would that character have gone to? I mean, you know her better than anyone.
Yeah. I think she would have been a part of really starting the caretaking side of society going forward. I think she would have been the person like cultivating sourdough, and like she would have been your friend that got like the chickens during COVID, you know. So she would have figured out ways to feed people and to care for them. That was kind of her baseline was protect people and care for them, guns and bread, right? So I think she would have continued to be that person, and she would have rediscovered how to make the food sources really sustainable for them. That's, you know, it's not as exciting as slaying zombies and stuff, but I think she would have been the person to sustain society.
But yet a very critical role. As a matter of fact, when they started splintering from Alexandria to the hilltop in the kingdom, sounds like to me Olivia would have been a first round draft pick.
Oh yes, I believe that. She was good. You know, I had to do all that research when I got that role because I wanted to understand how long foods lasted, which, you know, I know by looking at a date as a modern day person, but then I looked up things like how long past the expiration date does a can of green beans last? Does this last? How can you store sugar if you don't have electricity? How do you? So I knew all that stuff as the actor. It's an important part of my work, I think, is to understand those things. So I learned a lot about survival from Olivia.
You mentioned F3 Films a while ago, and of course a recent partnership, I believe, with Silver Screen Productions. And there's a couple of projects floating around there that you've actually had a lot of input in as a writer, a screenwriter, and whatnot. A couple come to mind: Fanfare and A Big Easy Christmas. What can you tell us about these projects?
So, A Big Easy Christmas is by Michael Peroni. He's a local writer, and that's their first out of the gate production with this partnership. So, I'm super excited for that local writer. Yes, I've been saying for years we need to be doing our own writers, television, and movies because that's how we really keep the tax credit dollars in the city, right? It works all ways. And Fanfare is my film. It's actually I was bugged that all midlife crisis women's movies end with them dying, and I love Thelma and Louise, but I was like, what if a woman walked away from her life like men do all the time in midlife crisis movies? So I wrote this film, and when they announced that they had the partnership, I wrote to Chuck, who was a friend, and I said, hey, Chuck Bush, it's Ann Mahoney. I have a great script for you. And he said, I'd love to read it. And within a week, I was optioned. So I'm the second film on the docket. And I've been writing for quite some time, but I've never really been able to get my foot in the door. It seems like the acting and writing journey should overlap, and they don't. So it's its own journey, and so it's pretty exciting to feel the beginning of that kind of happening too.
And what are the next steps for that? Where do we see that matriculate?
So option means that they want to produce it. The next step is their agent pitches it to networks that they're attached to, Lifetime, Homework, and or whoever the agent feels it's the right fit for. It's very similar to actors that way, right? Where do you fit? And then if they're for it, then they may ask for rewrites. But if they're asking for rewrites, they're going to be wanting to produce it. So their goal is for us to be in production in early spring of next year.
Well, no doubt the sky's the limits. I got to ask you, when people come in and they have you as a professor, like 13 years now, you said as adjunct professor there at Loyola University, your alma mater, a school that runs in the family, so to speak. What goes through their mind? What are the looks that you get in the comments?
I mean, I think maybe initially there's a little like, whoa, that's my teacher, but very quickly I think that dissolves. I hope it does because I feel like one of the things I promised myself, I had a variety of experiences getting my undergraduate and master's degrees in acting, and some were great, some were quite traumatic. And I always promised myself that if I got the chance to teach, I would teach from the perspective of a professional, which I didn't get a lot of people teaching me that were actively engaged in the professional world. So I think it pretty quickly fades away with them, but I'm very honest with them. I talk to them about the things I don't get. I talk to them about the things I get. I talk to them about the disappointments. I share with them, I'm very honest with them about the journey, which is what I never got as a student. And so I felt like, in a way, I was playing catch up when I became a professional. So I feel blessed to get the opportunity to teach students from a very current standpoint as an acting professional, and now as a writing professional and possibly producer. So
And do you feel like some of those lessons that you're able to pass on, it actually can translate and cross over to just really a lot of walks of life, a lot of industries?
absolutely. Number one is tenacity. It's and tenacity is not just you keep going but you don't do the work. Tenacity has a lot of pieces to it. It's keeping going amidst crippling disappointment, right? It's continuing to do the work because you love it, whether or not you're getting the job or getting booked. And it's like watching people around you leave the profession and deciding that it's still for you. And I think that's across the board. If you love something and you're talented at it, which it's usually you are. There's very, very few examples of people who are doing anything in their lives for a length of time that they're not good at. If you're doing it, you're good at it. You might be having a rough 5 years, right? And so to go, I'm having a rough 5 years, but I still believe in my talent. I'm going to continue to work. I think across the board that applies.
Listen, I can't thank you enough. And I know the guys over at BSI Comics, I know Dan and John are excited to have you this weekend. All the fans are going to be excited as well. I believe it's Saturday, June 22nd, which is just 2 days away. It's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 3030 Severn Avenue there in
That's
Metairie.
right.
And I know everyone's going to be excited. Anything you want to tell anyone to come on out?
Just come out and meet me. I love to talk to people. I love to hear your perspective on the show and what you love and what you want to know about behind the scenes stuff. I love sharing that.